Coach Carter, welcome to.
Hello, I'm not hearing you.
That's funny. That's funny. Sorry about that. So I'm using my audio here because anyway. Anyway, Coach Carter, welcome to the Empower Network. I'm excited to interview you today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We were just talking about that movie, Coach Carter, and how impactful that movie was. Samuel Jackson was Coach Carter, and so you put Ashley because but Coach Carter is such a great name, and we're going to talk today about why you coach, what got you into coaching, and what your beliefs are surrounding that. So now you're currently on the road, currently kind of kicking butt, kicking butt.
Yes.
So where are you guys at right now? Where are you playing?
Yes. So I am in Virginia. I am contracted to work with a team, North Carolina Central Softball. It is a team, an HBCU, a historically Black college, Division I school. And when you hear the words coach, you hear when you say I'm here at the tournament for them coaching, you would assume that I'm coaching the skill. You'd assume that I was coaching them on their hitting or their fielding or their pitching. But in fact, I'm actually here as their mindset coach, their mental performance coach, their confidence coach. So I'm here helping them take one moment of the game at a time, one instance at a time, trying to get them to visualize success and find ways to reset in moments where there are pressure. So that is why I'm actually here, is to kind of be a coach on that side of the spectrum for them this week.
So, Coach Carter, how do you actually teach people to stay in the moment? Because we got all these temptation, like whether it's good or bad, it's always pulling us either into the future, potentially to fear, or pulling us back there to get us to go beat ourselves up, or like, I regret this and I feel shameful.
Absolutely.
How do you actually teach them to stay present?
Yeah, that is such a great question. It took some training. So I've worked with them over the last 9 months, 10 months. And so we're now at the culmination. So when I work with athletes or individuals in general, we have to talk a little bit about self-awareness first. We do need to know what are some of the past moments and mindsets that have maybe dictated how they see the world now. And we had to kind of question and ask ourselves, are these things true? Or are these things that are not true, but that we've allowed to hold space in our life for all this time? So we have to debunk some of the things that we have been kind of living and dreaming and thinking of. We also have to realize that our brains naturally, in all of the thoughts that we have in a day, there are about 80% of those thoughts are naturally negative, and 95% of those thoughts that you continuously tell are continuous thoughts or repeated thoughts. So it's really important that we at least be aware that those things are the case. And then, but the great thing about your brain and the great thing about how you change perspective is that your brain sees words into pictures. And so it's easy for you. It's not easy, but it's a process you have to learn to talk yourself into something or create the picture that you want, so that your brain can then create the vision and then the image and then the feeling and the emotions and all the other things that come with it. So we really have to learn how to substitute one thing for the other, or at least put into practice where we want to go and then create some steps for that. So that's kind of a short version of how I make this work happen.
Okay, so you're talking pictures. So I'm curious, can you just go a bit deeper into that? We have to put pictures in our mind because why? What does that do to us
Yes.
subconsciously?
Absolutely. It activates our what do they call it? The reticular, I forgot the exact words, but it creates I'm not good on the word part, but it creates the feeling and the emotions and the belief that comes with that picture. And so naturally, as I mentioned, we have 80% negative thoughts. So naturally, when we think these things, it creates the feelings and the emotion. So if I can't do something or I'm struggling with something, it creates the picture, it creates the feelings that go with it, the tension, the stress, the sweat, the anxiety. So if we can so it's really not easy, but it's easier if you're able to picture a different picture, because then you start to say, oh, like I can do this. Okay, now I got a feeling, right? I see the picture, I feel the emotion. It starts to create the identity and the performance behind it. So yeah, that's what we work on.
And what have you noticed in your coaches or in your players when they do this? What results have you seen?
Yeah, we have to be careful because in this profession, um, We do see the results, but we don't want the results to be the reason why they do certain things. It's how do I more so create the blueprint and the plans to repeat success in instances where we struggle. So, although the results are great, we definitely want to see it. So yesterday we won, right? We had a lot of athletes who were nervous, who were anxious, who were had a lot of tension. Um, there's one particular athlete I'm going to speak about who is probably one of the best players on the team. And yesterday she went 0 for 6. So in 2 games, she got hit none, right? And so in every game, what she did was she went to the bathroom and she cried, right? And so she was keeping herself in that moment. And so what we had to do was help her get back to like, hey, every time there's a new pitch, there's a new opportunity in the game. And so if you keep yourself in that at bat that you just were in, you're not going to give yourself a chance for the new at bat. Now we were up 2-1 the last inning, and we got to a point where it's 2 outs. There's a runner on third base, and we got a hard hit to shortstop where she plays. Now, had her brain still been in that last at bat, she probably would have been out of the moment of the game. But there was a shot to her that she was able to make a good play and get the out. And so what we did was we created an opportunity for us to be in the present moment enough so that she could make the play. And so, yes, she struggled at batting. We take that back to practice today. We went to go hit today. We worked on that on the outside of pressure. But in reality, like we want to be able to give ourselves a chance to do something great. So it's not necessarily the results, it's the moments in between showing up and the result that we really care the most about. It's the process.
Well, what you're talking about applies to so much more just than,
Yes.
sports. It's like how we do sports is how we do one thing, they say is how we do everything. And I noticed, I'm sure a lot of people notice the overlap of how their physical body moves, whether it's in sports or whatever. We're not really compartmentalized beings.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Nope.
No,
We're not.
we're not. So what got you into this? Why do you coach people? What is your story here?
Yeah. So I grew up in a single family parent home. My parents got divorced when I was 7 years old. And so in a young age, I felt a little bit of abandonment. I felt as though I didn't have what everybody else had, and then my mom had to work all the time. So it's just me taking care of my younger brother. So at 7 years old, I also got into Little League. I started playing sports at a very young age. And I used to think like, okay, it was fun, but as I got a little bit older into my teenagers, I thought like, man, like my parents were never there. So I took it in that direction, right? So mentally, when we're talking about the stories and the mind blocks that come into our brain from instances and influences that have happened in our lives. And so the only reason why I brought that up is because for me, that was one big barrier, abandonment. And two, like I didn't have value or worth unless we were in a championship game, unless I was doing really well. Then all of a sudden my dad would show up to some of those things. So these are stories that I had been telling myself my entire life. So I started to create these boxes. Okay, if I now am a junior in high school, I had an injury. And if I'm out of the opportunity to play, then no one will see value in me enough to go to play at the next level, right? So you're starting to repeat these stories. And so that's kind of how my life happened. And I was thinking about all of the things that are against me, right? I'm a woman, I'm Black, I'm gay. So there's the instance of like, if I don't have these check marks, I have these notches against me that are not good. So unless I go get a PhD and say like, hey, no one can tell me no if I have this, that's how I created the value and self-worth. It was between sports and achievement. And so I know a lot of people that have those two areas of like, this is how I see value in myself. This is how I feel seen. This is how I feel heard if I do well in these things. Thankfully, I had a coach my junior year in high school. His name is Coach Hendren, who kind of spoke a little bit of truth, but also a little bit of like potential into me, unlocking the potential into me. And so what he said to me was, I went to him. I just came off this surgery. It's my junior year. Again, the pressure to go play college is really important. And he tells me, based on your height and your size, where you play at this small private Christian school as a post player in basketball, you're probably going to need to be a little bit taller, and you need to get through the up and down the court a little bit better. You're also going to need to be a better ball handler and a better shooter. He said, now we can work on some of those things, but there are some things in your life that is just a limit. Your height is something that you just can't change. He said, but as I watch you play the game, I notice how you anticipate and manage, and I see how you see the floor and kind of plan things ahead when it comes to the game. So you're really great at getting steals. You're really great at anticipating what's going to come. he goes, have you ever considered coaching? He's like, you kind of have a coach's brain. And so here I am in 11th grade thinking like, okay, the world tells me I have to be an athlete. My family shows up when I do great things like, get scholarships or win opportunities. So, I got to go down this route. And he's like, well, no, like, what if you think about something else that actually maybe speaks to your strengths? And so my 11th grade year, I went down to the community center and I started coaching little girls in basketball. And so that's how I started. Now, I did actually go into college and play softball. So I did end up playing a sport in college, Division I athlete, but I played softball. And so I've been coaching ever since that moment. And there is something about the ability to speak and unlock potential in people that has continued to reignite me to be able to debunk some of the you have to fit into certain stereotypes or you have to follow a certain game plan or roadmap to get somewhere. It's allowed me to like see that that's not the case. Everybody is unique, valuable enough. There are 8 billion people in the world. There's only one of you. So there are so many things that the world needs to see in you that I try to help people see and feel and breathe. So very much like you just said earlier, the world says that we have to be compartmentalized and we don't, And so I played in college. I got out of college. I coached a little 10U softball team. Then I got into middle school basketball and softball. And then I got into college or high school softball. And then in 2015, I started coaching at the college level. And so I've been coaching at the college level up until last June and coaching the athlete in the sport. So I've been doing that for a very long time. I've coached at every level possible: community college, community college, Division I, Division II, NAIA. So I've been around this sport. And so where I made the transition from spending time working on only the skills of the athlete into more of the personal human development, the confidence part of the athlete, was really, my business started in 2020, but last year was really the time where I was like, I have to go full time in this. So I was at a really big university. We had a lot of great resources, a lot of great funding, all the things I didn't get in any of my other experiences. And we had the best of the best athletes, the most elite athletes. And yet what I noticed was if an athlete struggled with something other than a mechanical, physical hitting or technique, we didn't have many resources for it. So we had some athletes who had some sort of histories of, having to go to therapy because of maybe some past traumas and dramas. And or we've had some athletes struggling with the pressures of the game or society. I mean, people at that level, the people that are watching that are fans really like to go in these people's DMs, our kids' DMs or these athletes' DMs and like tell them what they're doing wrong, what they're doing right. They really feel entitled to do that. And if athletes are not prepared for how to remove themselves from other people's expectations and find their own value on their own terms, it was a struggle. And so we had 600 athletes with one sports psychologist at that school that had all the resources, all the things that you could think of. We literally bought 4 pitching machines in 1 year, totaling at least about $70,000 to $80,000 to get better at a skill. But we weren't developing the people. We weren't developing the confidence. And so we have these young adults trying to go into the world, still being held back by other people's opinions of them, their values of other people's values and what they put in them instead of their own. So my job right now is how do I create that for them to break from external expectations and to find your own value on your own terms. That is only to me when you'll reach higher levels of performance.
So it's not going to come as a shock to you. You need to be doing motivational speaking, which of course you do with your students.
Yes.
But like you need to be doing this on a grander scale, like because your voice, you're not only well spoken, you understand the psychology. And if you understand the psychology of how it plays out in sports, you understand the psychology because it doesn't matter if it's sports, if it's parenting, if it's what an amazing story to. So you're not into boxes. So high five, because I'm not into boxes either. And I love that you are learning to be uniquely you. And I'm sure for all these students that you work with, you're not forcing them to be in some stupid box.
Nope.
Which is beautiful. You're celebrating them. You must have so many testimonials of kids you've worked with that are like lives changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's been awesome to do this work, and yes, you know, the quiet, shy athlete, I've been able to, you know, help them. Here's the thing, they've been told they've been quiet and shy, and so they've assumed that it's a bad thing. But instead, if I help them realize the strengths in what they do, if you get them to buy into that, you speak it to their potential and you speak to them, allowing them to speak up. But it's only when they know that, like, I don't have to do it in a way that looks like the other person who's raw, energetic, but in a way where it's just like, yeah, I'm getting the information across. And it's so powerful because I'm willing to speak up and not be shy and quiet because it doesn't look like that. And so that's kind of where I tap into my other side of my work, is where I deal with behavioral analogies and assessments, and I do DISC assessments. And I worked with the individual athletes with that, but also with teams with that as well. So yeah, I go into that aspect as well. How do I get the best out of that person and their strengths? And how do I get the best out of this person and that strengths? And how do I bring them together so that they succeed? And so that's really what I'm doing with this team as well, is like using those different strengths to build something that's great for the entire team.
I want to ask you, what's stopping you from doing group coaching? Like, you could be coaching coaches. You could be coaching, like,
Yes.
and not limited to coaches. And let's, you know, if that's your passion, do your passion. But I'm like,
Yes.
you're talking mindset. Have you ever considered doing mindset, like coaching leaders, helping them with their teams?
Yes.
Teams?
I would love to do that. And that's actually a route that I'm trying to figure out how to get into. I think that's just where I'm stuck. It's definitely something on the list that I've continued. It's on my board at my house. It's like, I want to get into the space where I help leaders lead their teams. I want to help, you know, these teams get to their high performance goals, whatever those things will be, knowing that, like, you got to be able to learn how to breathe, visualize, meditate, feel yourself through certain things, overcome certain obstacles or self-talk or self-doubt. It's really can work for anybody. I'm just trying to figure out the blueprint for how to do it, because people do see me, and my only experience, even in my resume, a lot of it is very much so coaching. So, you know, that's just where some people, I just haven't been able to figure out how to get into those spaces.
Well, let's get on a call with you and Arletta. I'm sure we can come up with something. I know
Yes.
the if you want it, I know the academy would be a brilliant place for you to be
Okay.
impacting leaders. So we'll talk offline about that. But
Yes.
how are people free to connect with you? Are they free to connect here on fit? Yeah.
Yes, Facebook will
Okay.
work. You can connect with me on Facebook. You can also email me info at coachashleycarter.com.
Yeah.
So my website's also coachashleycarter.com. I have a contact form there. You can book a call with me. So yeah, all of those places are very much available.
Okay, well, if you've been watching the Empower Network or listening to it, this is Coach. You're listening to Coach Ashley Carter on, and you are fantastic. And no doubt, you are meant to be leading leaders and coaching coaches. That is, I feel that very strongly. So, thanks for being here today. I'll message you after this, and we'll continue on. Thanks everyone for watching. Coach Carter, hope you guys win today.
Let's go. All
Let's
right.
go.
Thank you.
Chat soon. Okay, bye.